Then in the second group of the exhibition, called Publicity and Privacy, we are showing the evolution of Le Corbusier's concept for interior space. This group starts with a look on the idea of type furniture, because before Le Corbusier even designed furniture himself, he wrote about the concept of so-called type furniture, which were anonymous, standardized industrial objects that he used when he furnished interiors. He said it's not necessary to design furniture myself, because industrial society brings this kind of very useful furniture by itself, so I can rely on this kind of furniture for my own interiors. But then in the 1920s, Le Corbusier started to develop his own first own furniture designs. We are showing this in a reconstruction of his interior for the Pavillon de l'Esprit Nouveau from 1925. And then at the end of the 1920s, when he already was a very famous architect, because he had built some of his main housings around Paris in the 1920s, he then developed, together with Charlotte Perriand and Pierre Jeanneret, those very famous steel furniture designs that he is so well known for. For example, the chaise longue with the circular base, or the fauteuil grand confort, which is this cubical upholstered leather seat framed with a steel grid. So these furniture designs are showing also in this second section of the exhibition, but they only form a part of Le Corbusier's whole concepts of interior space, which changed every few years. And this is a very special aspect for Le Corbusier's work, that he never stayed with one fixed concept for a longer period. He reinvented him every 5 to 10 years. And then in the third section of the exhibition, we are showing how Le Corbusier tried to melt art and architecture more and more, especially in his late work. He turned away from the very rationalistic periods of the 20s at the end of the 30s, and started to use more vernacular materials. He started to mix in his own interiors African sculptures with tapestries, with painted antique sculptures. So he became somehow much more eclectic and interested in non-European design, which is very obvious in his interior for his own apartment that we are showing in the exhibition, which he created in 1934. In this third section of the exhibition, we are then showing, of course, the highlights of his late work, like the Chapel of Ronchamp, the Unité d'Habitation, which we are also showing with the original kitchen from the Unité d'Habitation. And we are also showing a rich variety of plans, of drawings, and of original models of his projects for India and for Chandigarh, which was a town which was created from scratch in northern India, and Le Corbusier did the master plan and several buildings for this town. Other sections in this last group of the exhibition are a section devoted to the Philips Pavilion, which Le Corbusier designed in 1958 for the World's Fair in Brussels. There we are showing a huge model which is showing the spectacular organic structure of this building, which was only temporary and was dismounted after the World's Fair. We are also showing, for example, the projection that Le Corbusier created for this pavilion, which was one of the first audiovisual projections in space. And we are also showing the Firminy Church, which was a work that Le Corbusier started to build during his lifetime, but was never finished, and it was only finished now some months ago by a former scholar of Le Corbusier. So it's very interesting that we can show in the exhibition how Le Corbusier started this project during the 1960s, shortly before he died, and then how this building was executed and how it looked today, directly after it was finished some months ago. And the end of the exhibition is a last section of Le Corbusier as an artist, showing mainly his last artworks, like a series of the so-called Taureau paintings, but also some of his last sculptures that he designed in the 1950s and 1960s. And this last section about Le Corbusier as an artist shows how, on one hand, he developed art, so painting and sculpture, as a very autonomous discipline in his work, but also how it more and more melted with his architectural work, so that one can say that his last works as an architect were really built art, because his buildings became more and more sculptural. His painting merged with the architecture. He did more and more paintings applied directly to the walls of the buildings, and he used more and more colored walls in his buildings. So he really achieved, at the end of his architectural work, what he was always calling synthèse des arts, synthesis of the arts, where all his different disciplines which he worked in during his whole lifetime became one unity, which was symbolized mainly by his architectural late work.